And welcome back. I'm Mabel John. You're watching continuing coverage of the World Healthcare Congress here in Washington, D.C. And a special welcome to folks that are joining us via live stream. I'm so very pleased to welcome back Dr. Robert Pearl, who is Executive Director and CEO of the Permanente Medical Group. And tomorrow, his book comes out. It's called Mistreated: Why We Think We're Getting Good Health Care and Why. Dr. Pearl, it's so great to see you again. This book that you're coming out with tomorrow, many years in the making?
Well, it reflects my entire career of being able to see the challenges in healthcare. Begins with my dad, who died from a preventable medical error. He lived on the East Coast. He spent half the year in Florida and half the year in New York. And when he had his spleen taken out, every doctor knew he needed to have a vaccine against the pneumococcus. But the ones in Florida thought the ones in New York had given him. New York thought Florida had given it to him. He never got it. And sleeping at my brother's house one night, he woke up, or didn't wake up the next morning. My brother found him on the floor with a system-wide infection. And although he recovered from that acute episode, he ultimately died of the complications of it. The American healthcare system is simply broken. We spend 50% more than any other country in this world. And our results from the bottom half of the industrialized nations. 400,000 people die every year from preventable medical problems or medical errors, including my father. We don't have the conveniences we'd want the rest of our life. We'd never do this in travel or retail or banking or finance. We accept the fact we have to go to the doctor's office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. The system is so broken right now, and yet Americans can't see it.
Your story is especially poignant because you're a physician and CEO of one of the largest managed care organizations in the world. But yet you encountered this very personal tragedy. What about the rest of us? How do we deal with this kind of situation when someone like you was not able to?
Right. Well, I mean, I couldn't because he's 3,000 miles away. I was living in California, and he didn't have access to a comprehensive electronic health record. But if you go back and look at the underlying question of why do we tolerate it, not what you can do about it, but why do we seem to not talk a lot? We talk a lot about the newest cancer drug. We don't talk about the fact that half of the people in the United States have not had screening for colon cancer appropriately. We talk about the newest procedure to retrieve a blood clot out of the brain. We don't talk about the fact that half of the people with high blood pressure, the #1 cause of stroke, don't have it effectively managed. We just assume we got to go to the doctor's office and miss work or school. When we have video, when we have Skype, we have so many alternative ways to do it. And that's what the book is about. Why do we accept so much less in our health care than in everything else? And in researching it, I looked at the psychological literature, much from long in the past, because these days you can't do it because of ethics anymore. I looked at some of the behavioral economics. I looked at some of the newest brain scanning techniques. And what's fascinating, Mabel, is to see what happens. So if you think back to the Stanford prison experiment that all of us learned about in college, you know, Zimbardo takes normal students, divides them in half become jailers with aviator glasses, half become jailees with OR greens and numbers, no names. Within 2 days, the jailers see the jailees as being criminals, as being dangerous. And the jailees see the jailers as being sadistic. There's no logical, these are just students. And then when you look at the brain scanning, what do you see? Times of great reward and great fear, parts of our brain light up, become activated. Reward is called the corpus striatum, the reward center. The fear is the amygdala. And then what do we see within a matter of nanoseconds? The perceptual part of our brains change. We see things differently, and what otherwise would be unacceptable now becomes that context, shifts perception, and changes behavior.
And so that is the root of why people can't seem to judge bad healthcare from good?
It's why we ignore it. It's not that they couldn't judge it. I just gave you some statistics. What we know is that, as I say, overall, we're in the lower half of the 20 industrialized nations. But ask most Americans, oh, care in the United States is great. What we know is that 400,000 people die every year. You don't see it in the media because that's not the way we see things in the context of American medicine.
Okay, so how do we shake the paradigm? How do we break this cycle?
This is exactly why I wrote the book. I wrote the book to do it all. Any profits are going to be given to charity. I'm not making any money on this. This is trying to awaken the patient in all of us, because I believe that the legacy players, the insurance companies, the pharma world, the medical societies are never going to make the changes. They're too invested in keeping the current system. And it's going to have to be the patient in all of us. I'll give you an example. 1 out of every 3 times that a doctor goes from room A to room B, he doesn't wash his hands. Every infection in the hospital was carried there by a human being. How comfortable are you or your family when you have a loved one in the hospital saying to the doctor, don't touch me until you wash your hands? We don't say that. Why is that? This is neurobiological process in our brain. And that's what Mistreated is about. When people start to say, oh my gosh, why don't I have the things in my healthcare and the rest of the world? Why can't I do a video visit, send a secure message, make an appointment online? Why can't my primary care, my specialist be communicating while I'm in the office and solve the problem today, not a day later or 2 days later? Those are the questions we need to be asking, and the patient in us is going to have to demand it.
How does the writing of this book impact your day-to-day leadership at the Permanente Medical Group?
So this book, I think, reflects the same mission-driven spirit that I've experienced inside Kaiser Permanente, inside the Permanente Medical Group. I wrote it every morning from 4:30 to 6:30 a.m. So I did it around my work
day
time,
job,
my day
yes.
job, sitting in place. But my entire career, what I've wanted to do is to transform American healthcare for the better. I know it's possible. I know that through integration, doctors working together, both horizontally in specialties and vertically between primary care and specialty care, we can provide care that's more coordinated and collaborated. I know that as soon as we pay people on capitation, as soon as you pay in advance, now you start to focus on prevention, avoiding medical error, and early intervention. As soon as you have the information technology systems, now you start to fill in the care gap. We can do so much better. We have to wake up this nation to what is actually happening.
Can your patients feel what you've learned from writing this book?
I think that in Kaiser Permanente, we've accomplished a lot of that. We have a 30% lower chance of our patients dying from heart disease, a 40% lower chance of dying from systemic infection, much lower chance of dying from cancer. If you look at 1,000 programs across the United States, the NCQA, the National Committee for Quality Assurance, did this. The #1 program, 5 stars for both commercial and Medicare, is Kaiser Permanente in Northern California. What we see is that our patients have higher quality, they have more convenient care. We do almost as many virtual visits as in-person visits. Every opportunity we have, we offer to the patient, do you really want to come in, or would you rather get care over the telephone, through a secure message, through a video visit? I think we've translated this, and this book is a means of helping everyone else in the United States. Kaiser Permanente isn't going to be everywhere. That's not the goal. The goal is to change the American healthcare system, to move it from a 19th century cottage industry, fragmented, doctors scattered everywhere, hospitals in every town, paid on a piecemeal, we call it fee-for-service basis, the information technology from the last century, and move it into the 21st century. We can change it, we can transform it, we can disrupt it, but together as patients we've got to do it. I hope people will buy Mistreated, I hope they'll read about it, hope they'll talk to their friends about it, and I'd like the feedback from them about the book itself. It will be available tomorrow.
All right, Dr. Pearl, on that note, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mabel.
Thank
so great
you.
to see you.
Great to see you. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We have much more content to come. You're watching continuing coverage of the World Healthcare Congress in Washington, D.C.